The knocking came at 11:42 p.m. Not a gentle, hesitant tapping, but 3 sharp, urgent blasts that sent Margot's heart racing. Nobody came to her door this late unless something was wrong. She muted the mindless reality show she'd been half watching, swung her legs off the couch, and padded to the door in her oversized Northwestern sweatshirt and leggings. Through the peephole, she saw Zoe's face, illuminated harshly by the hallway's fluorescent lighting. Zoe never showed up unannounced. Not once in their 15-year friendship. Margot swung open the door. "What's wrong?" "Are you okay?" Zoe stood there in a rumpled blazer over a cocktail dress, her makeup slightly smudged, clutching her phone so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Her eyes were red-rimmed. "Can I come in?" Zoe's voice was unnaturally controlled. The way people speak when they're trying not to shatter. "Of course." Margot stepped aside, dread pooling in her stomach. Zoe walked past her, straight to the kitchen counter where she set her phone down face up. She didn't sit, didn't take off her coat, didn't even look at Margot directly. Instead, she stared at her phone as if it might explode. "I was at Everett's tonight," Zoe said, naming a trendy cocktail bar downtown that had opened last fall. "The investor dinner got canceled last minute, but I was already dressed up, so I thought I'd have a drink anyway." Margot nodded, waiting. Zoe never rambled unless she was avoiding something. "I saw Ethan there." Zoe finally looked up at Margot, and there it was, that expression of someone about to inflict pain they didn't want to cause. "He was with someone." The air left Margot's lungs in a rush. "What do you mean, with someone?" Zoe's shoulders tensed. They were in one of those curved booths in the back. "A woman, red hair, about our age. They were—" she swallowed. "It wasn't a business meeting, Margot. Did he see you?" Margot heard herself ask, her voice strangely calm while her mind raced to process what Zoe was saying. "No, I don't think so. I left pretty quickly, but Zoe picked up her phone, unlocked it with trembling fingers, and held it out. "I took a picture first. I'm sorry, I thought you would ask for proof, and I didn't want you to think I was making it up." Margot stared at the phone but didn't take it. Her hands felt miles away from her body. "I've been sitting in my car for 45 minutes trying to decide if I should tell you," Zoe continued, her voice breaking. "But I'd want to know. I'd want you to tell me." Margot finally reached for the phone. The photo was slightly blurry, taken from across the dimly lit bar. But there was no mistaking Ethan, her Ethan, with his arm draped around a woman with long auburn hair. Their faces were close together, the woman's hand resting on his thigh under the table. Something cold and heavy settled in Margot's chest as she stared at her boyfriend of 3 years, the man who had just last month casually mentioned wanting to look at rings, touching another woman with the casual intimacy of lovers. "Maybe there's an explanation," Zoe offered weakly. Margot handed the phone back, her hand steadier than she expected. "There's always an explanation with Ethan." 3 hours and 2 bottles of wine later, they had moved to Margot's bedroom floor, backs against the bed, surrounded by the archaeological evidence of her relationship with Ethan. "I don't understand," Margot said, staring at a concert ticket stub from their second date. "Why wouldn't he just break up with me if he wanted someone else?" Zoe picked up a framed photo from New Year's Eve, Margot and Ethan kissing as confetti fell around them. "Because he's a coward. Most people are when it comes to ending things." 3 years, Margot whispered, the reality of it sinking in deeper with each glass of wine. 3 years and I never once suspected. "What does that say about me?" "It says you trusted him." "That's not a character flaw, Margot." Margot laughed bitterly. "Feels like one right now." She picked up her phone for the 100th time that night. No messages from Ethan. According to his Instagram story from 6 hours ago, he was working late at the office. The timestamp matched almost perfectly with when Zoe had seen him at Everett's. "I should call him," Margot said suddenly. Zoe shook her head. "Not tonight. Not when you're drunk and hurt. That's exactly what he wants. For you to be the crazy girlfriend so he can justify whatever he's doing. But I need to know who she is." Margot scrolled through Ethan's Instagram followers, searching for women with red hair. I need to know how long it's been happening. And you will, Zoe said firmly, taking the phone from Margot's hands. But strategically. When you're clear-headed. Margot leaned her head back against the bed and closed her eyes. I keep thinking about all the times he was working late or meeting clients on weekends. How many of those were lies? How many other women have there been? Her voice cracked. How did I miss this? You didn't miss anything. He hid it. That's what cheaters do. They hide, they lie, they gaslight. Zoe took Margot's hand. This isn't on you, but it felt like it was. Every memory was now tainted, requiring re-examination. Every I love you potentially hollow. Every promise possibly a manipulation. I need to be sure, Margot said quietly, before I confront him. I need to be absolutely certain this isn't some horrible misunderstanding. Zoe hesitated. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we need to do some detective work. Margot sat up straighter, something hardening inside her. Tomorrow, when we're sober, I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with before I blow up my entire life. Morning brought clarity, along with a splitting headache. Margot stood under the shower spray, letting hot water beat against her skin as she tried to wash away the hollowness in her chest. Last night felt like a fever dream, but Zoe was still there, making coffee in the kitchen, confirming it was all too real. Zoe had called in sick to work, and Margot had done the same, claiming a stomach bug. They sat at Margot's kitchen island, laptops open, mugs of coffee between them. Okay, so what do we know for certain? Margot asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Zoe pulled up the photo on her phone. We know he was at Everett's last night with a woman who isn't you, being intimate. And he told me he was working late. Margot opened her text messages. Actually, let me read you his exact words. Quarterly reports due tomorrow. Going to be a late one at the office. Don't wait up. So he lied about where he was, Zoe noted. That's definitive. Margot nodded, a strange calm settling over her. This wasn't the first time Ethan's stories hadn't quite added up, but she'd always given him the benefit of the doubt. Now, patterns she'd dismissed were coming into sharper focus. I need to check something, Margot said, opening her banking app. She scrolled through recent transactions on their shared credit card. The one they'd gotten 6 months ago to build a future together, Ethan had said. There it was. A charge from Everett's for $78.50 from last night. He put it on our shared card, Margot said, turning the screen toward Zoe. Who takes their mistress out and charges it to a card their girlfriend can see? Someone who doesn't think their girlfriend is paying attention, Zoe replied grimly. Or someone who's gotten too comfortable with lying. Margot continued scrolling through transactions from the past few months. Hotel charges in neighborhoods across the city. Restaurants on nights Ethan claimed to be working. Jewelry stores around Valentine's Day when he'd given Margot nothing, claiming they were beyond commercial holidays. I think this has been going on for a while, Margot said quietly, the evidence mounting with each swipe of her finger. Maybe since Christmas at least, Zoe squeezed her hand. What do you want to do? Margot stared at the screen, at the record of betrayal laid out in mundane transaction data. I want to know who she is. Are you sure that matters? It matters to me. Margot looked up, something fierce in her eyes. I need to see the full picture before I decide what to do about it. Zoe nodded slowly. Okay, so how do we find her? Margot thought for a moment. His laptop. He always leaves it at home when he goes to the gym on Saturday mornings. Tomorrow. You want to go through his computer? Zoe asked, her expression concerned. He forfeited his privacy when he started cheating on me, Margot said firmly. Besides, it wouldn't be the first time I've used his laptop. He knows I sometimes check emails on it when mine is charging. He's never had a problem with it before. All right, so we wait until tomorrow. No, Margot said, an idea forming. We can start now. There's someone else who might know something. Lucas had been Ethan's best friend since college. He was also the person who had introduced Ethan to Margot at a housewarming party 3 years ago. They'd always gotten along well, but Margot had noticed Lucas growing increasingly distant in recent months, begging off from double dates and group gatherings. Now she wondered if that had been a coincidence. They met him at a coffee shop near his apartment, neutral territory. Lucas arrived looking wary, his usual easygoing smile nowhere to be seen. "Thanks for meeting us," Margot said as he slid into the booth across from her and Zoe. Lucas nodded, eyes darting between them. "Your text sounded urgent. Is everything okay?" Margot decided to cut straight to the point. Zoe saw Ethan at Everett's last night with another woman, a redhead. They looked involved. Lucas's face gave everything away. The flash of recognition, the wince, the way he immediately looked down at his untouched coffee. "You know about her," Margot said. It wasn't a question. Lucas exhaled heavily. "Margot, I'm not getting in the middle of this." "You already are in the middle of it," Zoe interjected sharply. "By saying nothing, you've been taking his side." "It's not that simple," Lucas protested. "Actually, it is that simple," Margot said, surprising herself with how calm she sounded. "Either you tell me what you know, or I'll consider you just as complicit in hurting me as Ethan is." Lucas ran a hand through his hair, conflict evident on his face. "Look, I've told him multiple times to come clean with you. I hate being put in this position. Who is she?" Margot pressed. Lucas hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. "Her name is Vanessa. They met at a conference in Denver last November. 5 months of lies. Is it serious?" Margot asked, needing to understand the full scope of the betrayal. "He says it's just physical," Lucas said, then immediately looked like he regretted his words. "But I don't know, Margot. I really don't. He compartmentalizes. Always has. Does she know about me?" The question felt important, though Margot wasn't sure why. Lucas looked genuinely uncomfortable now. "I think so. Yes." So this woman, Vanessa, had knowingly entered into a relationship with a man who had a girlfriend of 3 years. The betrayal felt doubled somehow. "Why didn't you tell me?" Margot asked Lucas, hurt creeping into her voice for the first time. "I told Ethan he needed to. I said I wouldn't cover for him anymore." Lucas looked miserable. "I've been avoiding both of you because I couldn't stand being around you knowing what I knew. But I couldn't bring myself to be the one to blow up your relationship either." "That's a coward's answer," Zoe said coldly. Lucas didn't argue. "You're right." "I'm sorry, Margot. I should have told you." Margot felt strangely detached, as if she were watching this scene from above. "I need her last name, and where she works." "Margot," Lucas started. "I'm not going to do anything crazy. I just need to know who she is, please." Lucas hesitated, then pulled out his phone. After a moment, he turned it toward her, showing a LinkedIn profile. Vanessa Chen, marketing director at Helios Digital. Her profile picture showed a smiling woman with shoulder-length auburn hair and confident eyes. "Thank you," Margot said quietly, memorizing the face of the woman who had been sharing her boyfriend for the past 5 months. "What are you going to do?" Lucas asked, concern evident in his voice. "I don't know yet," Margot admitted, "but I'm going to do something." Saturday morning arrived with a sense of grim purpose. Ethan left for his regular 8 a.m. workout session, gym bag slung over his shoulder, kissing Margot on the forehead before he left their apartment. "I'll pick up coffee on my way back," he said with a smile that now seemed like a stranger's. How many times had he touched another woman? Then come home and touched her with those same hands? The moment the door closed behind him, Margot texted Zoe, "He's gone. Come over." Zoe arrived 15 minutes later, and they went straight to Ethan's laptop on the desk in the spare room he used as a home office. The password was the same one he used for everything. His mother's maiden name followed by his birth year. No secrets there. "What exactly are we looking for?" Zoe asked as the desktop loaded. "Anything," Margot said. "Emails, messages, photos. Something that tells me how deep this goes." They started with his email, finding nothing obvious at first. His calendar showed several evening client meetings at times when credit card statements showed restaurant charges. "Check his Google Photos," Zoe suggested. The app revealed hundreds of pictures of Margot and Ethan together. Vacations, holidays, everyday moments. But there was also a folder labeled V that contained dozens of photos of Ethan with the redhead from Everett's, Vanessa. Margot clicked through them one by one, each image a fresh wound. Ethan and Vanessa at restaurants. In what looked like a hotel room. Hiking in the mountains. At a concert venue Margot recognized. She and Ethan had been planning to go to that same venue next month. Jesus, Zoe whispered. This isn't just an affair. They're dating. Margot felt something inside her crumble and rebuild simultaneously. The pain was there, sharp and raw, but alongside it was something else, anger. Clarifying and clean. There's something else you should see, Zoe said. Having opened his text messages through the browser version, she pointed to an exchange with a contact saved simply as V. Can't wait to see you tonight. Told Em I'm working late again. The usual spot? I miss you, yes. Miss you too. This situation is getting complicated. You said you were going to talk to her after the holidays. Then after Valentine's Day? Wenny? Soon, I promise. It's not easy to end 3 years. Margot stared at the messages, the reality solidifying before her eyes. Not only was Ethan cheating, but he was stringing them both along, promising Vanessa he would leave Margot, while just last week he'd been looking at apartment listings for them to move into together when their lease ended. I've seen enough, Margot said quietly, standing up from the desk chair. I know what I need to do. The plan came together over the next 24 hours. Simple, direct, and fitting. Ethan had been careful for months, but he'd slipped up with the credit card. And now Margot knew his patterns, knew where to find him and Vanessa together. According to his text messages, they had reservations at Corsica, an intimate French bistro downtown, on Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. Are you sure you want to confront them in public? Zoe asked as they finalized the details. It could get messy. That's exactly why I want to do it there, Margot explained. He won't make a scene in public, and I want Vanessa to see exactly who I am. Not some abstract concept of the girlfriend, but a real person he's been lying to. And what about after? Have you decided what you're going to do? Margot nodded, a strange sense of peace settling over her. I'm going to end it completely. I've already started looking for a new apartment. I called my mom this morning and told her everything. You can stay with me as long as you need to, Zoe offered. I know. Thank you. Margot looked at her friend, the one who had been brave enough to tell her the truth when it would have been easier to say nothing. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Zoe squeezed her hand. Yes, you could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to. Tuesday evening arrived with a clarity Margot hadn't felt in months. She dressed carefully, not to impress Ethan, but to remind herself of her own worth. A black dress she'd bought herself, earrings from her grandmother, red lipstick. Zoe drove, parking a block away from Corsica. Are you ready? She asked as they sat in the car, watching rain streak down the windshield. Margot took a deep breath. Yes. They walked into the restaurant at 7:45 p.m., enough time for Ethan and Vanessa to have ordered drinks, to be settled in their false security. The maître d' approached with a welcoming smile. Do you have a reservation? No, Margot said calmly. I'm meeting someone who's already here. She scanned the dining room, and there they were, Ethan and Vanessa at a corner table, his back to the entrance, her facing away at an angle. I see them. Thank you, Margot said to the confused host, and walked purposefully toward the table, Zoe close behind her. Ethan didn't notice her approach, too engrossed in whatever he was saying to Vanessa. Margot caught the tail end of his sentence as she reached the table, thinking maybe Bali for Christmas this year. You'd love it there. Christmas. He was already planning Christmas with her. That sounds wonderful, Margot said, her voice cutting through their intimate conversation like a blade. Will that be before or after our lease renewal in November? Ethan's head whipped around, his face draining of color as he registered Margot standing there. Margot! What are you— Hello, Ethan, she said calmly, then turned to the woman whose face she'd memorized from photos. And you must be Vanessa. I'm Margot, Ethan's girlfriend of 3 years. Though I'm guessing you already knew that. Vanessa's expression shifted from shock to something unreadable. She wasn't backing down or looking embarrassed. Interesting. Yes, I know who you are, Vanessa said, her voice surprisingly steady. Though Ethan told me your relationship was effectively over, just not officially yet. Margot laughed, the sound hollow even to her own ears. Is that what he told you? How convenient. Margot, please, Ethan hissed, glancing around at nearby tables where diners were starting to notice the tension. Let's not do this here. Why not here? Margot asked. Ashamed? Because you weren't ashamed to charge your dates with Vanessa to our shared credit card. You weren't ashamed to lie to my face for 5 months. You weren't ashamed to tell her you'd leave me after the holidays, then after Valentine's Day. When exactly were you planning to get around to it, Ethan? Ethan's face contorted with anger and panic. You went through my private messages? My photos? What the hell, Margot? That's what you're upset about? That I discovered your lies? Not that you've been living a double life? Margot shook her head in disbelief. Wow! Vanessa was looking between them, her brow furrowed. Ethan, you told me you were planning to end things with her weeks ago. He was also planning to look at engagement rings with me last month, Margot informed her. He's planning a lot of things, apparently. Vanessa's expression hardened as she turned to Ethan. Is that true? Ethan's mouth opened and closed, trapped between his two lives colliding. It's complicated. It's really not, Margot cut in. She pulled out her phone and placed it on the table, screen up. On it was a collage she'd created. Screenshots of their text exchanges, photos of them together, calendar entries where he'd blocked off time for both women. It's actually very simple. You've been lying to both of us. Vanessa picked up the phone, scrolling through the evidence with increasing disbelief. The weekend you told me you were at a conference in Seattle. You were with her in Vancouver? And the night you told me you had a client dinner, you were with her at the symphony, Margot added. Should we compare notes on all the other lies? Or have you gotten the picture? Ethan's face had gone from pale to flushed. This is insane. You're making a scene over nothing. 3 years is not nothing, Margot said, her voice rising slightly before she controlled it. 5 months of cheating is not nothing. And telling me you were separated in all but paperwork is not nothing, Vanessa added, her own anger visibly rising. People at nearby tables were openly watching now, some with phones discreetly pointed toward the unfolding drama. Ethan noticed and tried to stand. We should take this somewhere private. Sit down, both women said in unison, then exchanged a brief, startled look. Remarkably, Ethan sat. I didn't come here to make a scene, Margot said, her voice lowering. I came here to say goodbye, and to make sure Vanessa knows exactly who she's dealing with. She turned to the other woman. He will lie to you too. He probably already has. Whatever you decide to do with that information is your business. Vanessa was staring at Ethan with new eyes. When were you going to tell me about the engagement rings? Or were you planning to propose to her while still seeing me? It wasn't like that, Ethan protested weakly. I was confused. I care about both of you. Stop talking, Margot interrupted. You don't care about either of us. People who care don't lie like this. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope, placing it beside her phone on the table. This is a list of everything in the apartment that's mine. I'll be collecting it tomorrow at 2 p.m. I expect you won't be there. Where are you going to go? Ethan asked, sounding genuinely surprised that she was leaving. That's no longer your concern, Margot replied. She turned to Vanessa. He's all yours. If you want him, Vanessa's lips pressed into a thin line as she gathered her purse. I don't think I do. She stood looking down at Ethan with disgust. Don't call me. Then she walked out of the restaurant without a backward glance. Ethan stared after her, then turned back to Margot, anger replacing his shock. Are you happy now? You've ruined everything. No, Ethan, you did that all by yourself. Margot took a step back from the table. Goodbye. She turned and walked away, Zoe beside her, aware of the eyes following them, but focused only on putting one foot in front of the other. They pushed through the restaurant doors into the rain, which had intensified into a downpour. Are you okay? Zoe asked as they hurried toward her car. Margot took a deep breath of the rain-washed air. No, she admitted. But I will be. 3 months later, Margot stood in her new apartment. Surrounded by moving boxes and the sound of Zoe and Lucas arguing good-naturedly about the best place to position her couch. "By the window," Zoe insisted. "The light is better there." "But the TV would be in direct sunlight," Lucas countered. "It'll cause a glare," Margot smiled, watching them with affection. After the confrontation at Corsica, Lucas had reached out to apologize again, offering to help in any way he could. His friendship with Ethan was over, a casualty of his belated honesty. The doorbell rang, and Margot opened it to find Vanessa standing there with a bottle of wine. "Sorry I'm late," Vanessa said. Traffic was terrible. Their unlikely friendship had begun 2 weeks after the restaurant scene, when Vanessa had contacted Margot through Instagram. "I think we should talk," the message had read. "We both deserved better." Over coffee, they had discovered they actually liked each other. Both driven, both honest to a fault, both healing from the same betrayal. It had been Vanessa who'd encouraged Margot to apply for the promotion she'd been hesitating on, and Margot who'd introduced Vanessa to her current girlfriend. "Right on time," Margot assured her, accepting the wine. "We haven't even decided where the furniture goes yet." As they all worked together to transform the empty apartment into a home, Margot felt a surge of gratitude for these people who had helped her rebuild, not just her living space, but her sense of trust. Later, as they sat on the misplaced couch eating takeout, Lucas raised his glass in a toast. "To new beginnings. And to friends who tell you the hard truths," Margot added, meeting Zoe's eyes with a smile. "Even when it hurts," Zoe agreed, clinking her glass against Margot's. Outside, the city lights twinkled against a darkening sky. Inside, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and good friends, Margot felt the last pieces of herself settling back into place. Different now, stronger in the broken places, but whole again. The truth had hurt. But living a lie would have been worse.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.